Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Today in Titletown Packers podcast. My name is Griffin. I'm joined by my co-host Bron, and we're here to talk about the Packers' dominant win over the Chicago Bears on Sunday night. And we're going to look ahead to this week's matchup with the Philadelphia Eagles, who are struggling very much. But just to start it off, Bron, how are you doing? How are you feeling about the win?
Yeah, things are good. It was a good win, and we'll get into all the details of the big win. But yeah, I'm doing good.
That's good to hear. So this Sunday night, Packers win 41-25. Their third game this season where they dropped 40 plus on a divisional opponent. They've officially dropped 40 on every single divisional opponent. Pretty good win. Our defense played very well against a very bad offense and a very bad quarterback, but they did play very well for most of the game. And our offense was absolutely on fire. Perfect game from them. What is your main takeaway coming out of the game, bro?
My main takeaway has to be surrounding, like you said, how well the offense played. I'm not sure if it was better than that Week 1 performance in Minnesota, but to me, this definitely looked like a lot easier. Everything looked easy. I thought Matt LaFleur, his play calling made things look easy. Aaron Rodgers, all the throws he made looked super easy. Everything just came really simple to what we were doing on offense. I felt like Matt LaFleur was two steps ahead of Chuck Pagano on every play, and Aaron Rodgers as well. Just a lot of talented players on that Bears defense, and Aaron Rodgers kind of just took control all game, and it was never difficult for them.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up week one because I think that's the main dichotomy between the Packers offense. Week one, Aaron Rodgers has probably his best up there with the best games of his career. He was absolutely phenomenal, didn't miss a throw, pretty tight coverage everywhere, and he was just dropping dimes all over the field. Great game from Rodgers. This game was a great game from Matt LaFleur. And coming into the game, I said it that in order to for the Packers to beat a team or a defense as good as the Chicago Bears, when our you could make the argument that our offense is less talented than our defense. We would need a big game from Matt LaFleur. We would need a Kyle Shanahan-esque game where he takes these pieces he has on offense and just fits them into what he wants to do with the ball. And he did that beautifully. The red zone stuff was amazing. He was dialing up deep shots. The one to Tanyan was amazing. It's just a great game for Matt LaFleur schematically, and Aaron Rodgers just the perfect game manager in this game.
Yeah, he was because he was able to do everything that the scheme asked of him, that the game plan asked of him, and that Matt LaFleur asked of him. It was just a really well-rounded performance by him. Because he plays a huge part in what they do schematically as well. Because he's got the check with me's, he's got 1, 2, 3 options at the line of scrimmage that coach will give him in a specific play call, and Rodgers will be able to choose which one he wants to go with. He kind of directs where if it's a run play, which side he wants to run the ball. So he gets a lot of freedom like he did in the Mike McCarthy offense. But when you play that with what Matt LaFleur brings to the table, just with his overall scheme and his play calling abilities that maybe Mike McCarthy didn't have, pairing Rodgers' ability with Matt LaFleur's ability in designing the game plan, that set us up for huge success against a really good Bears defense.
Yeah, and to talk about the relationship between Rodgers and LaFleur, they talk about it all the time about the amount of trust the two of them have in each other, and it's really coming to a head this season, especially at this point in the season, coming off of that type of performance where you can just tell that this is a quarterback who has full trust in his coach and the coach who has full trust in the quarterback. It is the perfect marriage of a scheme and a player. Last year, it was more so of the Aaron Rodgers is so used to a Mike McCarthy style offense, right? Coming in, brand new head coach, totally different scheme. It was understandable that there was going to be some type of a curve before we reach this level of excellence. And this year, it feels like they got a full year and a full off season and more than half of a second season in to really just work on what they want to do. Rodgers is getting better with the offense, and he's turning into just the perfect quarterback for this offense. He's got the brains to be able to do all the check with me's, the making the reads, doing the RPO stuff, and he's got the throwing ability. He's one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Putting him in this type of offense, letting him be a game manager and also Superman when he has to be. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, that was really well said. I mean, in that first year in this offense, it was a lot of settling in, and it took some time to buy in. And you don't blame Rodgers for that, and you don't blame Matt LaFleur for that, because there was settling in obviously on both sides, because Matt LaFleur has to kind of accommodate the fact that Aaron Rodgers is, like you said, superhuman on the football field. And he's been playing with guys like Marcus Mariota and Jared Goff, in different times. And Matt Ryan is another one who's one of the better quarterbacks, but still not the kind of guy that wants to have a lot of freedom at the line like Aaron Rodgers does. So to be able to finally find, like you said, that marriage between those two was really important. And so far, it looks like this is the peak of the relationship, and everything looks really good. There wasn't a hiccup on Sunday, and Aaron Rodgers talked about it after the game, and he could not stop praising the coaching staff, the game plan, and the scheme for the results that came about, which was a W, and just pure offensive success. And I think that was great to see.
Yeah, I think you're right there. And this really felt like the type of game that Matt LaFleur wants to play every week with the rushing attack, which we both talked about last week, had room for improvement, definitely. Uh, and he increased the volume of it this week, and they really went out there and performed very well on the ground. Aaron Jones was very good. Looked like 2019 Aaron Jones. We haven't seen a lot of flashes from Jones this season, other than week 2, of course, where he went off. But he looked very dynamic on the ground this game. Looked very like he looked like such a good runner that we know he is. He looked like the guy who scored 22 touchdowns last year. And being able to work play action off of that is just that's what Matt LaFleur wants to do every week.
You're right, and obviously Jamal Williams as well. He ran quite a bit too, and I thought he ran hard, and he obviously had a couple nice runs. One of them being for a touchdown, so he showed some explosion as well, and that was good. It's nice to have two guys, and when you've got these two guys, one of them's a bit of a more bruiser type back, and then the other one is that dynamic one cut runner that we've got in Aaron Jones. It's important. And now we've got both these guys kind of coming into full form together on the field after, Aaron Jones going out for a couple games. Jamal is still healthy, and Aaron Jones is back healthy, coming into a groove. So things are looking good on the running game as well. And the offensive line has a lot to do with that. Corey Linsley went out with an injury. Elton Jenkins moves to center. John Runyon pops in at left guard, and things are moving smoothly. And we're going to see that lineup again this week. Probably, this is a new lineup for the first time. We're going to be starting John Runyon in there against the Eagles. So, it's another combination, but the way that this group is able to really just continue playing at an elite level, regardless of who's in there, it's pretty impressive. And obviously that helps the run game out as well as protecting Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, the offensive line has just been outstanding this season. They've been the best group in the NFL in pass blocking and run blocking, and the Packers continue to be one of the best teams in the NFL at drafting offensive linemen. John Runyon Jr. comes in. He doesn't look like an all pro, but he
Well,
looks like,
he doesn't look like a 6th round pick either, and that's the
yeah,
thing.
no.
He looks like a pure starter.
Uh-huh. Right. He looks like a above average NFL starting caliber left guard, which is more than you can ask for from a 6th round pick. And knowing how we came into this season with offensive line being one of the biggest worries heading in, losing Brian Balaga, having to kick out Billy Turner, and not knowing what's going on at right tackle really whatsoever. Um, the fact that they're just playing so well as a whole group is just it's really impressive so far through the 2020 season.
And now with Patrick being out possibly, and Linsley, we're not sure if these guys are going to be able to go. Linsley, we know he's going to be out probably around 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. Patrick looks like he might not be able to go either. So it's going to get tricky here. The depth is going to be shortened. We're gonna at this point we're not going to have as many guys as we'd like. Rick Wagner's still there. Obviously, Bill Turner is going to be starting at right tackle. But we're running out of guys in the back, and we're gonna need to stay healthy. But as long as we've got the guys we've got, I'm not worried about a drop off in play as much. I'm more concerned about a potential second injury that could put this line in more trouble if we've got guys that have to come in like Yash Neiman, that really could disrupt what we are doing as a group. Just because he's just not there. He's not at the level of even John Runyon, who is a 6th rounder, and Neiman's been in the system for a little bit. So I'm a little concerned about that, but otherwise, I'm comfortable with how we'll play, I assume, against the Eagles with this new group.
Yeah, certainly, and you got to hope that we're able to avoid any injuries along the offensive line this week, knowing we don't have much depth. But I think it'd be much more worrisome under a different coaching regime. Maybe Mike McCarthy, it would be very, very worrisome. Known to not help out his offensive linemen very much, but the way Aaron Rodgers has been getting the ball out this season, I trust enough that if if it hits the fan, Matt LaFleur, Rodgers, they're gonna be okay.
Yeah, that's a good point you made about Matt LaFleur's willingness to help guys out on the O line. I think you saw that with what Bill Turner was doing against Khalil Mack for a large majority of the game. There was two plays that were really exciting to me. One of them was Lucas Patrick shipping Khalil Mack off Bill Turner a little. It's a tough assignment, Bill Turner against Khalil Mack, but Mack didn't get a sack. Lucas Patrick comes in and ships Mack, so it was almost like a double team, and it was a really nice play that allowed Rodgers to get the ball out. And then another one, you've got Jamal Williams making a nice block on Khalil Mack after Bill Turner, holds him for a little bit. So that kind of tag team work on a good pass rusher is key to a good passing game and keeping Aaron Rodgers clean, and that's why he's only been sacked 12 times. So I just think the willingness to recognize when guys are really good and when you might need to give some help to those guys. They're good players. Bill Turner's been really good this year. And then when Bakhtiari is up against Mac, it's a little bit of a different story. You go and let him take care of him, which he did when he was on him. But I was pretty pleased with what we saw from the running backs, other linemen, even tight ends as well, helping in trying to stop some of these guys like Khalil Mack.
Yeah, that's been a big story of 2020 where teams were playing. The pass rush just isn't a factor at all. We're going into these games talking about the opposing team's pass rush, and it just coming out of it didn't even matter. Rodgers, he was hit once, I think, on Sunday night facing Khalil Mack. Obviously, no Akeem Hicks hurts the Bears, but Khalil Mack, one of the best edge rushers in the NFL, one of the best edge rushers of this generation, couldn't do anything. And I think that is really a product of the way Rodgers is three-step drop, hits the back foot, gets rid of the ball, which is completely different from what we've been seeing from him the past 2 years.
Yeah, he looks great. Obviously, he talked about in his media availability how he's been doing more squats, lifting weights more in the gym, and that's kind of helped him keep his legs underneath him and stay in rhythm. Not maybe worry about taking as many low hits, especially with the way that they're protecting quarterbacks these days by roughing the passer calls on just about everything. He feels like he can stand in there more than ever, even get the ball out of his hands quickly, and if necessary, take hits. But he hasn't even had to do that at this point. So, we have to be pleased with what's going on inside that pocket. I mean, it's clean. It really is, and there's nothing to worry about at this point. We've seen just excellent play, ability from Rodgers to escape anything if there is pressure, and then the O line to really hold it down and lock up whoever's in front of them, and it's been really excellent.
I think it was Peter Bukowski who tweeted this the other day, but the Bucks game where the Packers got annihilated by the Bucks defense, only put up 10 points, 0 after the first quarter. Uh, that's kind of in the back of your head as the season goes on, knowing that, okay, the Packers offense can be completely shut down just like they were last year at times. But it's appearing that that's more and more of an anomaly of a game because it's not easy to pressure Rodgers. It's not easy to get pressure on him the way he's getting rid of the ball. He's averaging 2.5 seconds snap to pass, which is way lower than what we're used to seeing from a guy like him. So it's not as easy to get him off of rhythm. It's not easy to pressure him, especially with the way the offensive line is playing. So, and other than that Bucks game, we haven't seen the Packers struggle against any other defense. They've been maybe not as good as their peak, but they've been a good offense in every other game. So the hope is that that was just a pure outlier of a game.
I think it was, and another reason I think that is because Rodgers, he all year he's been playing in rhythm, getting rid of the ball quickly. And when this pass rush is neutralizing that, it's a bit of a shock because, like I said, all year he's been able to get the ball out of his hands quickly and have a lot of success, as opposed to years past where if there's pressure, he's going to escape. And maybe he knows that and recognizes that early, and at times was seeking to do that. At this point now in this offense, he's looking to get rid of the ball, and when the pass rush comes and doesn't allow him to do that, he doesn't have the mindset of being ready to escape anymore. So I think that might have been a little bit of a shock to him, and maybe that's why he didn't have as much success facing that pressure. Um, so that I think attributed to the reasons that we lost that game.
Yeah, and the Bucks, they blitzed him like no other team blitzes him, and no other team has blitzed him like that since then. But I think there's a chance he learned a lot from that game, and he now knows where if he's under pressure, he's best off just getting rid of the ball rather than dropping further back or trying to make a play with his legs. Because he turns 37 today, by the way. Happy birthday, Aaron! Come on the pod. Just send us an email. We'll fit you in, Aaron.
Yeah, he has to message us, otherwise it's not gonna happen.
Yeah. He's 37 now, so he can't make the plays on his legs that he used to. And so now, when he's facing a good pass rush, he's staying in the pocket. And we've seen it so many times this season where the pocket is collapsing. He's not able to even step up, and it's just a pure arm throw. The one to MVS against the Colts come to mind where he just launches it. The one to Devontae in San Francisco, the first touchdown, the 40-yarder, whatever. That one comes to mind where he's not trying to roll out and get more time. He's just trusting his abilities and just throwing it. And so I think versus good pass rushes, it's less of a factor for the Packers offense than it once was.
You're right. I think he's just, to kind of close the door on this conversation about how Aaron played. I thought, this game was a pretty telling story of how the scheme has really opened everything up for him, and the idea of playing in rhythm. I think he realizes how easy he made it look. It almost was when you make a great play, a really difficult play. Rodgers seems to get more excited about that, and the team seems to get more excited about that. But this Sunday against the Bears, it almost looked like business as usual because it just looked so easy. It was, and I really can't stress enough how simple it looked. And Rodgers just looked like it was business as usual. And at this point, it has to be like that, and it really was. Just everything was so simple. And when it got difficult in other games, then you start to celebrate those big scores and things like that. But the stuff that we were doing were long, methodical drives, just very easy plays to get yardage, and then we'd go down and score with a nice read from Rodgers on four different occasions. He obviously ended up with four touchdowns, and I was just really pleased with how this offense looked. It was a different, like you said, it was different from the flashiness that we've seen in Week 1 or in other games that we've had a lot of success. So I was pleased that we were able to do this as well, where we take a lot of that time of possession, slow things down, go through the motions on offense, and just get the job done.
Yeah, absolutely. And just one more thing on Rodgers before we shut the door, like you were trying to, Bron. I just want to talk about his play action game this season because it has been phenomenal, especially coming off of 2019, where he really struggled with play action. Obviously, before the season last year, there was a lot of talk about Aaron coming into the LaFleur offense, coming into this type of Shanahan McVay offense where maybe he's not going to like some things. He's going to be uncomfortable, which he was in hindsight. He was uncomfortable a lot of times last season with a lot of the different things that LaFleur likes to do. One of them being play action, where last year he was in the bottom third, bottom quarter of the league in passer rating on play action with a 91.3. That has increased this year to 135.9, which leads the NFL by a pretty good margin.
That's
He's
a
got
ridiculous
Yeah,
number.
that is
That's a
insane,
ridiculous
right?
number.
He's got 15 touchdowns off of play action this year. Last year he had three all season, three touchdowns off of play action.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's so beautiful him getting week after week just more comfortable in this type of offense, more comfortable with the motion, which he's come out and said he's not entirely comfortable with it. He's getting more comfortable with that, with motion at the snap. There was a lot of that on Sunday night, where as the ball's being snapped, someone's in motion, which is probably more important than pre-snap motion in today's NFL. And then obviously with play action as well, where he didn't really like to turn his back to the defense. That was the big talking point, and now he's fully embraced it. And look at the results.
Yeah, speaking of motion, the Packers ended up making a pretty nice signing. We ended up getting wide receiver, punt returner, Tavon Austin. He was with the 49ers in camp for a little bit and ended up getting injured, didn't make the team, has been injured for the past couple months. He didn't play football for 10 weeks, and now he's been healthy for a couple weeks. Packers reached out, signed him, worked him out. He's been in the building, so if they think he's ready, he could play against the Eagles. I was excited to see this move because this is a guy that had high expectations coming out of school. Uh, was one of the best high school college players that people have ever seen. First round pick, top 10 pick. Played with St. Louis, then went to the Cowboys, and then has been off the map a little bit since then. Hasn't played meaningful football for those teams, but he's a threat. Special teams, he gets a lot of punt return touchdowns, and he's got game changing speed. He runs a 4.3, and the Packers could use more speed like that. So we could have him in the motion roles if Tyler Irvin can't go, or even if he can go. It's just another guy to throw into the mix. It's a high ceiling signing for me because this guy could, if he's never had great quarterback play. So if Rodgers is able to elevate what he can do, um, even you could even start throwing him in the slot, have him run some routes, catch some balls. He could run the ball too. He says he's a running back, he says he's a wide receiver, he could do whatever he wants to just find a role in this offense. So I'm pretty pleased with the signing. I think it's like I said, I think there's high potential for this to be a game changing move for us week in and week out. And it's just another guy to add to the mix, some insurance for Tyler Irvin and other guys in this wide receiver core.
Yeah, and just from a returning perspective, that's a huge boost for the Packers special teams who have been dreadful this year once again. So having Tavon Austin there to return kicks and punts, pretty exciting. Big improvement over Darius Shepard and Tyler Irvin for that matter. But yeah, on offense, there's very low risk, very cheap contract. Just if he does nothing, he does nothing. We're already confident in the guys we have, evidently, but very high ceiling. I think the median outcome of this is Tavon Austin just being an improved version of Tyler Irvin, doing all the stuff Irvin does, but maybe at a bit higher of a level, a little faster. And he can do a lot more receiver stuff than Tyler Irvin can do. And he's got familiarity with the offense, having spent time with Sean McVay and Matt LaFleur. So, yeah, like you said, very, very low risk, very high potential for Tavon Austin.
Definitely, and with the signing of Tavon Austin, the Packers ended up releasing Darius Shepard, who fumbled in the Colts game on kickoffs. That was, this is 2 years in a row now where he's gotten a chance to return kicks and literally cost us points. Um, and as a result, we have released him now at this point, and uh, Packers are moving on because he didn't add anything, literally nothing to the offense, and was a detriment to our team on special teams. So then you just go and release the guy and cut your losses, and now we've got a guy who could potentially add on both sides of the ball in special teams and offense. So I think overall we improved, net gain, and I'm excited.
Yeah, you feel bad for Darius Shepard, though. Adams
Yeah,
and
I mean he's been
Rogers,
around,
they both said,
right? He's had a couple good camps.
yeah, I was really excited for him. We both were last year. Remember that? We thought he was going to be.
Well, when you talk about the guy coming out of camp as a potential contributor, making a lot of plays in training camp, then you think, well, he might be able to bring that to the field. Never happened though, and
Yeah,
in fact, he made more bad plays than he made good. I know he had two fumbles last year, and he gets in the game, one game, does nothing returning the ball on kickoffs, doesn't even get to the 25. They're kicking it to him every kickoff to basically asking him to run it out. So at one point, he's a guaranteed fumble, and of course, it happens. Costs us the game. So that was it for them. Matt LaFleur, Brian Gutekunst, that was it. That was the last chance for him, and it's a shame. But now we've got a chance to improve in that spot, and like I said, also on offense. So I'm definitely excited about the direction of special teams.
let's get into the defense here. Defense obviously performed very well. Two Darnell Savage interceptions, Preston Smith fumble return touchdown. Very all around for about 3/4 of the game. Very dominant. Held them to 3 points for most of the game. But later on, kind of as the Packers defense often does, garbage time got pretty ugly for the defense. But overall, they did what they had to do. Offense was scoring points. So what more can you ask for from the defense, right?
You're right. the main takeaway for me on the defensive side is the fact that two guys who we've been expecting more of this season maybe haven't brought it as much as we'd like. They're starting to come along, and then this game for me showed that both are well on their way. And for me, those two guys were Darnell Savage, like you mentioned, and Preston Smith. Darnell obviously had those two picks. He was PFF's highest graded defensive player in a single game of this whole season. He scored a 96.8. Um, so he had a great game, and it was pretty evident watching just even watching the TV copy. He was really good. His hip movement on those picks were great. You saw his speed, his ball hawking ability, sideline to sideline. He was excellent close to the ball. He ended up getting hurt late in the game, so I don't know how many snaps he played exactly, but when he was in the game, it was impressive. I mean, this guy looks like he's finally starting to settle in. He said as much after the game. So it was a breakout game for him. This is the guy, he had a lot of opportunities to make plays last season. The ball would slip through his hands. And then even earlier, a couple weeks back, he had a ball that, popped off his shoulder through his hands. He cut a pass off, and this to me is just he's starting to come together. Him and Amos look like a great duo for us heading into this playoff push. They've both really just tuned up their play to a really high level. And then Preston Smith, he had his best game of the year, I think, and it came with the splash plays, but he was also solid in the run game and in the passing game. He ended up getting a sack in addition to the scoop score. Zadarius, both of those guys really, they were like last year. We saw what they did last year. They were game wreckers last year, and they both made splash plays today against the Bears on Sunday. That ended up being difference makers for the defense.
Yeah, Darnell Savage has just been improving week after week, and we've been talking about him for I don't even know how many weeks now that he's been improving, and this was the culmination of all of it on Sunday night with two picks, only had two targets, two interceptions, just phenomenal play by Darnell Savage. He really looked like the player that the Packers drafted, that they traded up to draft in the 2019 or the 2019 draft. So it's exciting to see maybe the light come on here, and we've literally said this like 3 weeks in a row now, but it's very exciting, and hopefully the level of play plateaus from here at the very least, but possibly improves. And then Preston Smith, yeah, like you said, it's nice to see him come on, be more of an impact player than he was early on. I still don't think he's at the level that some people thought he was after last year, but he's been playing pretty well, and that's nice to see. Obviously, the scoop and score touchdown is obviously great, and the peace sign at the end of it. So that's cool to see him and Zadarius Smith really playing well right now.
Yeah, to have both those guys playing at a high level at the same time is going to allow easier stuff in the middle for Kenny Clark. Rashawn Gary, another nice game from him. So when everybody's playing at a high level, we're pretty scary. That's the key. If we can get everybody hot as we reach the playoffs here, because now we got a 3-game division lead, the playoffs are basically a lock. Which is great. Now we're feeling a little more comfortable as fans, at least. And I definitely know in that building they're not comfortable at all. They want it all, but um, as fans, we can sit comfortably knowing these guys are all seemingly getting hot. Just every player, the units are starting to get hot as a whole. And as that happens, if everybody can get hot at the same time, we can start to go on a run, and that's going to be the key to any potential Super Bowl run that we want to go on.
Yeah, I don't want to come out of this game too high on the defense, knowing that it was against Mitch Trubisky, but it really
Oh,
does.
definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, that quarterback is not a good player. Mitch Trubisky, he's just not a good quarterback. And neither is Nick Foles. So we're not, whoever we were playing that game wasn't going to be anything special from that position. But, there was obviously discouraging things as well. In the first series, one of the first runs of the game, a huge breakout run by David Montgomery, and he was a guy I mentioned as somebody who could have a big day. And when that happened, I was a little nervous. I was like, "Well, that's not a good sign for what's to come." But we ended up
Yeah.
starting to shut things down a little bit more. So overall, like you said, there's nothing was perfect on defense. That's for sure. We made key plays at key times, and that ended up being the crucial point for us to win that game, keeping the ball in Aaron Rodgers' hands. Um, but just for me, things are looking better than they have all season on defense, and it really doesn't matter who they're playing. If we're able to perform at a high level, it'll start to guys will start to buy into the fact that they can play at that level, and hopefully it starts to transition into some of the games where we play tougher offenses too.
Yep. And with the cornerback duo coming back, Jair and Kevin both played okay. Uh, hang on. Yeah, and with the cornerback duo both coming back, Jair and Kevin, they both played pretty good on Sunday. And then Darnell Savage obviously playing great, Adrian Amos also playing great, and then the pass rush is improving. They're able to get to the quarterback with 4 rushers. It's just, we're getting quarterbacks off their first read, maybe off their second read, and hopefully by then there's going to be pressure in their face, and that's how you win on defense for most of the time. The only worrying thing is that we've yet to see this defense play 60 minutes of full football. I mean, maybe the Jags game they played 60 minutes of good football, but that was horrible. Obviously, the Jags suck, but it seems every week they kind of shut down as the game goes on. Usually when we're
Well,
blowing them
look,
out.
you're right. Yeah, you're right about that. It's we start. Well, look, the clear evidence of that is we're up 41-10, and then you look at the scoreboard at the end of the game, it's 41-25.
Yeah,
That's the key indicator, and we need to tighten up. There's no point in letting guys score. I understand we're not going to lose the football game, but you know we gotta start showing that we could play a full 60 minutes. That was a great opportunity to do so. If you come out of that game and the score is 41-16 as opposed to 41-25, and you allowed 2 field goals as opposed to 2 touchdowns and a 2-point conversion or whatever I don't even know what ended up happening, but that would look a lot better. That would feel a lot better as a team. And now you're feeling like you can go out and beat anybody on defense too, coming off a performance like that. But now you've allowed 25 points. Oh, the running game, it wasn't bad for the Bears. They had a lot of success. And then Mitch Trubisky started making some throws at some points. So you'd like to think that it would have been a better opportunity to try to close them down and really shut them out, but it just wasn't the case.
the worrisome thing is that this was kind of what we saw against the Colts, where it worked for the Colts. They were able to come back and win. Where they're in the first half, they're looking good, very impressive, and then they kind of get tired. I don't know. They just get worn out and they just start giving up big plays. And in that game, it lost them. It lost us the game. But obviously against Mitch Trubisky, that's unlikely to happen. Luckily, but I think the Packers defense is the only defense in the world that could make either A, the Bears running game look good, or B, Mitch Trubisky able to make good throws. So take that what you will.
Well, look, the one thing I will say is this game we ended up actually not rushing 3 guys on any plays in the
That's
entire game.
that is
No
improvement.
3-man rushes. No 3-man rushes in the entire game.
That's
So for
good.
me, right, like you're gonna look at that and say, well, that's a good sign because now we are trying to get to the quarterback as opposed to the 3-man rushes again. And this is a beaten up O line too. So when you're talking about a chance where Mike Pettin would maybe want to do more 3-man rushes, it would be against this beaten up O line that was probably a little more vulnerable. But instead, he takes advantage by really trusting his pass rush to get there and putting guys out there to get to the quarterback. So I thought that Mike Pettin is trying to do different things to help bring more success, and it looks like it's working. One of those things was bringing Darnell Savage closer to the line of scrimmage um, on a lot of different plays that have helped him just play better overall, and it's helped him when he gets back downfield as well. It helps him too. So just little things like that are going to be the key to making this defense better, because obviously you're not going to go out adding any more players at this point. So you got to improve from within, and it looks like we're doing some little things to do that.
Yeah, and also Preston Smith only had two snaps in coverage. So that is also improvement.
That I didn't know. That's great news too.
Yeah, that's great news. He wasn't targeted. That's nice. I like these things from Mike Pettin, realizing kind of the some of the stupid things he does, and maybe
It's
he's
like
working
he's
on them.
listening.
Yeah, it's like he's listening. That's what you want to see. Another thing to touch on after this game is Christian Kirksey, who he's been okay this season, but Sunday night was definitely not his best outing. He was struggling quite a bit.
Yeah, well, it wasn't his best outing. Yeah, look, I think he's got room to improve. I feel like every time there's a splash play, he's around the ball. He gets the ball on a fumble. It looks like he's made. It might look like on TV that he's having a good game. He'll get a pick, but he makes a lot of tough plays that you don't like to see. Like especially in the passing game, he's struggling a little bit. In the running game, he's having a little bit more success, but even there, um, there's times he just doesn't get the job done. There was one on one. It might have been the huge run that David Montgomery had in the first possession that the Bears had, where the alignment was so brutal. I mean, it was Kenny Clark on the left side. It was just Kenny Clark versus two O linemen, and then Christian Kirksey a bit to the left of Kenny Clark, and David Montgomery just ran right through. The O line double teamed Kenny Clark, and Christian Kirksey went
As
to
they
the
do.
wrong gap. Yep, Christian Kirksey went to the wrong gap, and then David Montgomery just ran free, and that was one of the worst alignments I've ever seen. It was like a freebie. It just gave it away. He gave away a ton of yardage, so that has to change. It's just about little things. He's got to make adjustments. Mike Pettin has to make adjustments. They've got to do better, and it starts with the guys on the field and the coaching staff as well.
Yeah, that alignment was the Mike Pettin special in the run defense area. Classic Mike Pettin there. But yeah, Kirksey, it's been tough. It's been a tough year for him. Tough to judge him, but the pass coverage is where it's really irritating because this is what we brought him in for. This is what Blake Martinez could not do, and we bring in Kirksey to be an improvement in that area, and he's been lost a lot of the time in the middle of the field. And the middle of the field continues to be where you want to target the Packers in the passing game, and the tried and true formula is run the ball, and we won't stop it. And Matt Nagy kind of fell out of that, likely due to the fact that we were putting up points on the offensive side of the ball. So that contributed. But yeah, I like this performance from the Packers defense, but and there are ways that they can be successful, but I just don't know how that's going to go down as the season continues.
I think Christian Kirksey is a good player. He was when he was in Cleveland. He got hurt a couple years. He was out of football for 2 years. I still think it's going to take a little bit of time. Like he still has to get his feet wet, and get accustomed to this is a new defense for him. No, it's not. That's not true. Let me say that again. He's back in the Mike Pettin defense. He was with him in Cleveland before Mike Pettin came here. I just think there is room for improvement for him, and I think it's going to happen. I really like him as a player. He's a great leader in the locker room. He was an exciting pickup when we did get him. I was pretty pleased with it. We knew we had to get somebody, and I liked the addition. So I still think he's gonna get better and good enough. And when you throw in the Kamal Martin guy, now he's playing excellent football. He's a fifth round pick, and he's come in same way John Runyon has, and just done a really nice job. And he looks ferocious. He can tackle. He's a willing tackler, a strong tackler, physical guy. Um, in the same way that Chris Barnes has been productive as well, and he's an undrafted free agent. So I like that group because you've got Raven Green in there as well, who we've talked a lot about, who's playing really well. So throw all those guys in the mix. I still think I like where the middle of the field is at, and if Christian Kirksey kind of picks it up a little bit, we'll be in a good spot.
Yeah, well, speaking of Chris Barnes, he just got activated off the COVID list today, I believe. So,
Yep,
uh,
that's right.
you think there's a chance we see Barnes kind of eat up Kirksey snaps there?
No, no,
No.
they like no because they like Kirksey a lot. They think he's a great leader. He's when he's out there, he's gonna wear the green dot, and he's gonna play 100% of the snaps on most games. That's the truth. The
Yeah,
same way they did with Ha Ha Clinton Dix before he got traded.
and
The
Blake.
game before he got traded, yep, Blake in the same vein. Ha Ha before he got traded, he played 100% of the snaps that game. So that if that doesn't tell you anything, they like the guys that they've got with the who take a lot of the majority of assignments or responsibilities that other guys have. the guys who are good at that, regardless of their play on the field, they're going to keep them out there for a large portion of the snaps, if not 100% of the snaps.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But I really need the linebackers to improve before we play the Titans in Week 16 and Derrick Henry, because that might get pretty ugly the way he's playing, the way the Titans offense is playing. But this week, let's switch gears to the Eagles game. We got the Eagles coming up, Lambeau Field, 425, Jim Nantz, Tony Romo. It's gonna be a blast. Eagles, they just suck. They are horrible. Rooting for them on Monday night was like
They're
it
bad.
was they are just Carson Wentz. He's like a whole different quarterback. He can't play. He's horrible.
They've got a ton of injuries, and I'm not gonna, he's playing bad. It's bad. He is, like you said, completely different player. Uh, in his early years, he was making a lot of nice throws, escaping the pocket, but now every time he throws the ball, it's like if it's complete, it's a surprise, and that's
Yeah,
putting it lightly
yeah.
because he looks like a completely different player. Uh, the O line is really banged up. They just put their right tackle on IR. I think he's done for the year. He's not going to play against us certainly. Zach Ertz just came back. He might play this week. He's off the injured reserve list as well. But they've got a couple guys. They've got Dallas Goddard. They've got Travis Fulgham, who has been kind of falling out of favor the past couple weeks. But he obviously played with us for about 10 days. We cut him. Now he's playing well for them. Richard Rodgers caught a Hail Mary last week. Nothing new for
Hey,
him.
yeah. That was amazing.
He's another guy. It was amazing. Amazing catch. Not as amazing as his first one, but really good.
When I saw him
But
catch that real quick, when I saw him catch that, and then I didn't know who it was, and he stands up, it's Richard Rodgers. I was losing my mind, dude. How does he catch two of
yeah,
them? It's something about
he's just
Rodgers. It's something about the name Rodgers.
yeah. Yeah, but I mean, so they've got guys. Alshon Jeffries just got back in the fold a week
Rodgers has
ago,
been
and
good too for them. He's been like a
no,
good tight
yeah,
end.
I don't know if you've noticed how much he's slimmed down, but he
Yeah,
almost looks
yeah,
like a
he
wide
does.
receiver.
Yeah,
He
he
looks like a
was.
wide receiver out there.
Uh huh. Yeah, him and
So
Dallas
they've got
Goddard are
guys.
good
Yeah,
pairing.
the trio that they'll have in the coming weeks and in the future potentially with Ertz, Rodgers, and Goddard. That's probably the best trio in the league right there.
Yeah, well, the way Ertz has played this season before he got injured, I wouldn't be surprised if Rodgers continued to get snaps, but you never know with the way the Eagles are playing. But it's like why is Travis Fulgham not getting more snaps? He was playing great, and then Alshon Jeffrey gets healthy, so now he's like a bench warmer. I don't get that. Alshon does not look very good, especially on Monday night.
No, he didn't look good, but they've got so many different things to sort out. Whether it's the injuries, like we talked about, the lack of weapons, the multitude of guys that are potential weapons, like Jalen Rager's another guy that they can't seem to find role for.
Yeah, and the
I
quarterback.
think they're struggling to right, and obviously the quarterback play, and they're playing two guys at once. Guys don't know what's going on. They got both of them in the huddle at the same time. Confusion. Doug Peterson, gosh, I don't know if you ever seen some of his press conferences this year. But he just looks like so done with this organization. He's just I don't think he's a great head coach if I'm honest. And he did win a Super Bowl with Nick Foles, and I get that whole situation. Frank Reich was there, and you see how much success he's having in Indy.
Hmm.
He was the offensive coordinator there. I got to give him a lot of the credit because watching Doug Peterson without him since then it's been tough. Their offense hasn't been the same. Carson Wentz hasn't been the same. So all of that combined, I don't know. This is a tough like this Eagles team is really grasping at straws at this point. I mean, they're still and the funny thing is they're still
Yeah, they
in
could
the
host
playoff
a
race.
playoff game.
That's right. They're one game back from the Giants. They play different, they play all these divisional teams, so they're going to have a shot. They're desperately in search for a win, but I can't imagine the morale being high in that building. Um, right now, after coming off that loss to Seattle, where they were close enough to potentially win that game at different times, and then they lost. That was the one where you needed to win that game. Now they're just deflated, I imagine. And coming in against this offense, their best chance is when their defense is playing well, and then the other team could allow some points to them. But I think our offense is going to have no problem with this Eagles defense.
Yeah, that's the hope. That's the hope. And I don't think our defense is going to have an issue either. The way Carson is playing, the way he's turning the ball over. Good Lord, he just loves throwing interceptions. Real quick, the interception he threw on Monday night was one of the worst interceptions I have seen. He threw it to the defender. I don't know what he was thinking. Was he waiting for the tight end to break the other way? I have no idea. He throws a lot of those though, so I think Jair maybe could get his hands on one. He's always been elusive of those ints, but maybe he could get one this week with Carson Wentz, who loves throwing interceptions.
Yeah. And like you mentioned Jair, I think specifically with the offense, their offense versus our defense, I think our corners really fare well with because they don't have a great receiving core. Like who's gonna go up against Kevin King and Jair Alexander, and they're gonna beat those guys. I just don't see it. Jair will lock down whoever is in his way. So I feel good about that. That to me is gonna even put more of a problem for their passing game. I mean, you're talking about the worst defense in football in Seattle, who they played last week. Looks like that defense is getting better, but still, it's not the back end. It hasn't improved in any way. Um, Jamal Adams is there, but he's mostly a middle linebacker type player at this point. So the cornerbacks and the safeties, they are not that good, and they still struggled, the Eagles, against that defense. So when you've got the four guys that we've got in our defensive backfield, with Amos, Savage, Jair, and Kevin King, that's going to be tough for them to really put anything together passing wise. And if you ask me, I think that's really a matchup that we're going to relish and take advantage of.
Yeah, it doesn't even matter who's open when you got a quarterback who can't throw it into the ocean. So I really
Yeah,
think this is going to be an ugly game for Philadelphia, and I think it's going to be a great game for us.
that definitely would be nice.
Yeah, on the offensive side of the ball, I hope it's more of what we've been seeing. That's kind of my take every week. It's because they're playing great. They're playing great every week, even when they lose. So I just hope we see more of that.
Well, what do you think? Let me ask you what you think. Maybe something, just anything. What you'd like to see an improvement on for us, because this is a chance to just like add on to what we've been doing. Like you said, like every week we're looking to just keep it up. But what's something we could maybe add on to what we've already been doing?
I think it's getting Devontae more involved, honestly, because
That's a great point.
he didn't play very well on Sunday night. I mean, he obviously played well, but for his standards, what he's done this season, he didn't play very well. And 2 weeks before in the Jacksonville game, he had a very bad game. So I going up against Darius Slay, who just like Xavier Rhodes, he's meeting again, even though they left the division to get away from Devontae. He's meeting them again, who he owns. He owns Darius Slay every twice a year. It used to be, and think it's going to be another great game for Devontae to add on to his Offensive Player of the Year campaign.
You're right about that. I mean, yeah, that's a great point. Like you said, Devonte, his bad games are like d- a normal receiver dreams about having his bad
He
games
still
as their
catches a
good games.
touchdown in his bad
I
games.
know he still makes incredible catches for
Yeah.
touchdowns and gets 10 targets in his bad games and
Hmm.
comes down with 50 plus yards, 60 yards, 70 yards. Like he's just a phenomenal player. And we definitely have to utilize him. And I think in the same vein, you talk about Aaron Jones. I think we have to definitely run the ball well, because in the last matchup that we had with the Eagles last year, our problem was Devontae dominated that game, and that was a game he had, I think, close to 200 yards, and then ended up leaving the game with an injury. So really all we could do was throw the ball, and we couldn't do enough to stop them on defense, and the running game never got going, and that was kind of the deciding factor. So I think if we can get Aaron Jones running like he did against the Bears, tough front. Eagles got a tough front too. They've got Fletcher Cox, all different guys up front. Josh Sweat is emerging. Just all these different guys, and I think if we can get the run game going with Aaron Jones specifically, it's gonna be a different ending than it was last season.
Yep. And maybe if Devontae doesn't go out with the turf toe, maybe we'll win that game because after Devontae left, we did not have much. Obviously, the game-ending interception in that game, which was a target to MVS, who is probably a worse player than he is now at that point. So Devontae, obviously huge, going up against Darius Slay, who has never had any answers for him. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about Aaron Jones. I'm excited about Matt LaFleur getting into his groove, emptying out the playbook here as the season goes on. And it seems like there's been two versions of this offense, right? Where it's either LaFleur scheming it up, abusing teams like he did on Sunday. It's kind of that kind of game against the Saints. And then we've had Rodgers dominant games like against the 49ers, against the Vikings week 1. So I don't know what we're going to get this game. Knowing that this the Philly defense isn't very good, could be one of the Rodgers games where he just goes off, feeds Devontae, who's always open, and it could be a takeover game or a takeover game, as you like to call it, Bron. Spelled
Yep.
Tae. Yeah, could be one of those games.
Yeah.
That's what I'm expecting. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I just thought about Miles Sanders, who has been playing pretty well this season. So, and obviously we all know our run defense is not the strongest in the NFL. So if they can get the ground game going, which they did last year on Thursday Night Football, um, that's really how they won on offense that game. Carson Wentz did not do much. So if that happens again, that could get that could get a little tight. But I expect the offense to score enough points like they did on Sunday for it not to be a factor.
Well, I think when you mentioned Aaron Rodgers, what kind of game we're going to see from him, this kind of sets up for one of those games where he puts on an MVP for performance and the run isn't heavily focused on, just because that Eagles front is a little tougher than the Eagles front is tougher in a lot of ways than that backfield is for the Eagles secondary. And I think the Packers are just going to take advantage of some of the liabilities that they have out there. Darius Slay, you mentioned, he's a good corner. If he's covering Marquez Valdez-Scantling, maybe it's a bit of an easier day, and Darius Slay is going to stop that guy. But when it's Devontae, you feel like that matchup you're going to win. So then everywhere else, they don't got a ton of good players out there in that secondary. So the Packers, I think, are probably going to try to take advantage of that and throw through the air a little bit. We might see another 4 touchdown game. We might see 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. I think it's going to be one of those games that kind of keeps him rolling in the MVP conversation.
Yeah, and as the race is tightening up too, with Mahomes just being turning into Mahomes again, kind of a slow start for him, but he's really just turned back into the player that he always has been. So it's a very tight race. There's stat wise, it's very close. Rodgers has the edge on touchdowns right now. Mahomes has the yards. So we're gonna need, in terms of MVP, which I'm not sure how much they care about that inside the Lambeau Field building, but in terms of us as fans rooting for Rodgers, we're hoping for what could be another dominant performance from number 12.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you'd like to see him. You want to see him get the MVP because it's just nice to have him recognized because he's been unrecognized or even recognized as a not as good of a player over these past however many years, and it's just nice to see him playing at this level where people are starting to realize that he really hasn't lost it, and he's still playing at that level. Frankly, this is one of the best seasons of his career. This is in the top three for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Probably not as flashy as other years. I would say, like 2011, 2014, those MVP years, those were definitely more flashy because of his outside the pocket stuff, his off schedule stuff. And this in rhythm stuff, it looks a lot easier, and it is a lot easier. It's just a lot more basic and not flashy. But
But it's not like he
this
doesn't have the
statistically,
throws.
right?
He's had
Yeah,
incredible throws this year. He's got a full highlight
some of
reel
his
this
best
year.
throws of his career. Yeah,
Yeah.
some of the best throws of his career are coming from this season, and the statistics are. This could be one of the most. This could be the best statistical season of his career too.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to see where it all shakes out. But when you're sitting at 33 touchdowns and 4 picks through 11 games, that's not a bad spot to be in because we've got 5 games to go. If he throws 2 touchdowns, and that's a low number for him. If he throws 10 more touchdowns, that's 43 touchdowns. Maybe he gets 2 more picks. 43 touchdowns, 6 picks. Those are better numbers than he had in his MVP years. Uh, but those are low for him. I imagine he'll probably get around 15 more touchdowns. And if you give him that, you're sitting at 48, close to 50. Picks are low. That's tough to not give the MVP to that guy, especially with the way the whole team is playing on offense.
And I think the voters are rooting for it. Maybe not rooting for him, but I think the narrative this year, drafting Jordan Love, Rodgers doesn't have it anymore, and then he comes out on the revenge tour, lights the league up as he's done. I think he'd get more votes than Mahomes, maybe in like a legacy award way. Mahomes is going to be playing for 20 more years. He can have a billion more MVPs, but this year Rodgers deserves it. I think if the season ended today, let's say, I think Rodgers would get it over Mahomes.
I agree with that, and the numbers are a little bit more indicative of that than maybe you would think. Because Rodgers does have the lead in touchdowns, like you said. The picks are close. Mahomes has two. Rodgers has four. Mahomes has more yards, but yards that's never really been an important stat. But at least to actual people who understand the game. But I look, the Packers offense is only good because of what Aaron Rodgers does and brings to the
Right.
table. We saw last year Matt Moore come in for the Chiefs, and when when Patrick Mahomes went out for a couple games, and the offense just picked up right where he left off, and to me that just shows what how valuable Aaron Rodgers is, as opposed to really when you just plug a guy in and continue to have success. That's not valuable to me. When Aaron Rodgers isn't in, this offense doesn't move the ball. We've seen games where he's out and we get shut out at home. Like that when Rodgers isn't in the game, it's game over for us. And to me, if
Yeah.
you're talking about most valuable, it's widely clear that Rodgers is miles more valuable than any player in the NFL.
Right. And that's where it gets tricky with MVP. Does it mean best player or does it mean most valuable player? And I think Rodgers would win it for both of those definitions there. But when you're talking about value, everyone's talked this year about how we didn't trade for Will Fuller, we didn't draft a receiver, we didn't sign anybody in free agency. So shouldn't it obviously go to Rodgers? And then this isn't even a knock on Mahomes, but the the Chiefs are freaking loaded. They got every player everywhere. They got Le'Veon Bell, Tyreek Hill, McCole Hardman, Travis Kelsey. All of those players are premier players at their position. Obviously, Mahomes is outstanding, but when you're talking about value, who's more valuable to their team? And then, like you said, Matt Moore comes in. Obviously, he's not Mahomes, but they did well on offense. And Andy Reid, who's considered the best coach in the game right now. When you're talking about value, I think Rodgers definitely gets the edge there.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. And just to let's. I would like to also talk about the playoff picture a little bit now that we've kind of shut this game a little bit. Nope, let me repeat that. Yeah, I agree with you definitely, and I also want to kind of touch on this playoff picture that we're looking at here. Uh, these three teams now looks like there's only three that really have a true shot at getting that first seed, and the Packers are one of them. And it's exciting because they've got the win over the number one seed right now. In week 3, we beat the New Orleans Saints, who are sitting at 9-2, but they have the number one seed. Packers are currently sitting at the number 3. Um, so basically, what the situation is the Saints have a game against Kansas City, and that is going to be a tough one for them to win. But they also play the red hot Atlanta Falcons this week, and they've got other divisional matchups, and they're always tough. You never know. So they've got games that they could potentially lose. We only need them to lose one game. So if they lose to Kansas City and we win out, we get the advantage. If they lose two games, we lose a game. Basically we only have to if they lose two games, we only lose one game, we get the number one seed. Seattle, they've got tough matchups. They've got a game against the 49ers in week 17, and then in week 16 they've got a game against the Rams. But other than that, their other three games are relatively easy. They've got the Jets, they've got the Giants, and then one other team that's a relatively easy victory. Can't come to my mind right now, but and then Green Bay, obviously we've got the Eagles, Lions, Panthers, Titans, Bears. So we have the third easiest schedule remaining in the NFL in regards to win percentage. So and that's higher than the Seahawks and Saints. So I feel good if we can. Really, the only situation is if we don't beat the Titans, then we probably it's almost likely that we don't get that number one seed. But if we can beat the Titans, which is a matchup that I am pretty confident in us being able to do good, uh, obviously Derrick Henry scares you, but that defense isn't special, and if we can get going on offense, they're not going to be able to run the ball. So I think we're in a good position because we can win these games if we start to get hot. We get on a roll. If we finish 13-3, that should put us in a spot that we're sitting well enough to get that number one spot.
Yeah, and Taysom Hill for the Saints. he was bad on Sunday, really bad. Obviously, he was flashy against Atlanta in his opening game, but he did not look like an NFL quarterback, that's for sure. He looked a lot like Kendall Hinton on the other side of the ball. So I don't know how far he's going to be able to lead the Saints. I don't know when Drew Brees is coming back. No one really knows at this point, but how much better is Drew Brees? He's not. He hasn't been great this season. He's been okay, but how good really are the Saints? I'm not really sure.
Well, yeah, Taysom Hill, teams are going to start to neutralize if they don't start throwing the ball. I mean, he hasn't had a passing touchdown in 2 games now. He's ran the ball in twice in both games. If they don't start throwing the ball, teams are just going to stop playing the pass basically, and they're going to know that they're going to run the football on a majority of
Yeah,
plays,
yeah, they're gonna dare him
and
to
it's going to
throw
be
it,
a lot easier. They're going to dare him to throw it. They're going to try to make him throw it. They're going to stack the box. We'll see a lot of zero coverages out there, and
which
that's
funnily, funnily enough, that's the exact same way teams should play Drew Brees, who can throw it 15
yeah.
yards down the field.
That's a good point. So I think it's going to start to get tougher on the Saints to find ways to have offensive success. So with the Saints and Seattle having a couple tough matchups, I feel like the Packers are in a good spot to get that number 1 seed, but we'll have to take care of business on our end, Griff. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Winning out would definitely help, but even if we get a loss, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to hope that the Saints lose 2 of their next 5, but it could happen. But winning out is obviously the best thing to do, and I think it's very possible that Titans game obviously being the toughest one, and that being at Lambeau definitely helps. But Derrick Henry does scare you, and I think the Titans are the one team where your offensive production doesn't affect the volume of carries that Derrick Henry is going to get. They are very much run the ball on early downs, run it when you think they should pass it, and Ryan Tannehill is kind of just he plays cleanup. And obviously AJ Brown has been fantastic this season, so that's a very scary team, and that's going to be a very important game for the Packers. But yeah, there's a good chance that, like I said, I don't really know how good the Saints are, so are they deserving of a 9-2 record and being the number 1 seed in the NFC? I don't know. Taysom Hill definitely did not look like the quarterback of 2020 or the quarterback of the future for the Saints. So if it gets ugly enough, we could see some Jameis Winston, which who knows how that's going to go. But I like the Packers' chances at getting that first round bye as of right now.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And let's kind of wrap this game up too. I want to know what you think. Give me a guy that you're watching this week for to be like an X Factor type player for us, and then also give me how you think the game's going to go down.
X Factor, Devonte Adams, and little victory lap here. I don't know if I mentioned this, but last time I picked our X Factor as Devonte Adams was when we were playing the Texans, and he put up 192, I believe, and 2 touchdowns. So I think Devonte is going to have another pretty awesome day, and I think it's going to go down where we blow him out. Maybe it gets close in garbage time, but maybe they throw a Hail Mary to Richard Rodgers. That would be cool. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. 42-23. That's my final score.
For me, I would have to say this week's X Factor has got to be the offensive line, just because there's a little bit more uncertainty than in weeks past without Corey Linsley and potentially without Lucas Patrick. So if we are able to kind of hold it down without those guys, we can neutralize a tough Eagles pass rush that could get going with the players they've got there, and that'll potentially keep Rodgers clean, and that'll help attribute to some offensive success. And same thing in the run game too. So that's the key. If Rodgers gets pressured, things start to get disrupted on offense. That could be troubled. But if we're able to keep things clean, I expect a big win as well. I'm gonna go 31-17.
All right, I have a bold prediction. Ready?
I'm ready.
Jalen Hurts finishes this game.
It'd have to get pretty ugly, I would think.
Yeah, I don't know why he's not in right now.
Well, sometimes he is in, and then they
Yeah,
don't know
well,
what's going on.
yeah,
Sometimes he comes in and plays with Carson Wentz on the field. Also, that's just basically taking a guy off the field.
yeah. Give me a bold prediction, bro, just for fun.
I'll give you a bold prediction. I'm gonna go with a bit of a surprise. I'm gonna say Tavon Austin. If he plays, I'm gonna say he gets 5 touches and does well in special teams, and I think he gets 5 touches on offense. That's a
I th-
bold prediction.
I thought you were going to say 5 touchdowns.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's gonna get 5 touchdowns first game. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That'd be cool.
That's
Could happen.
bold. That
Who
would be
knows?
bold.
Yeah. Who knows?
That would be bold. Yeah.
Maybe he's great. Maybe he just four punt returns and a touch pass jet sweep touchdown. How's
Yeah.
that? Yeah, that's cool. All right, that's gonna do it for the podcast. Thanks for joining me, Bron. This was great. I loved talking with you as I do every week. And thank you
Yeah.
all for listening. It's been great. It's been a fun little hour here discussing the Packers. You can listen to us Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, and make sure to come back every Thursday or Friday. Those are usually when we upload these. So make sure to subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, like I said, and hoping for another W this week. Go Pack, go!